In the news this week, the BBC highlights the work of the Christian Institute in a new documentary. Nicola Sturgeon claims the named person scheme is not compulsory, and World Down Syndrome Day is celebrated. Hello and welcome to this week's news bulletin from the Christian Institute. The Christian Institute and prominent legal cases supported by the Legal Defence Fund have featured on a BBC documentary. The Battle for Christianity on BBC One featured the cases of Asher's Baking Company and B&B owners Peter and Hazel Mary Bull. Presented by Professor Robert Beckford, it considered how issues including conservative morality are affecting Christianity in the UK.
The Christian Institute has a legal defence fund to help Christians in court because their religious beliefs have brought them into conflict with the law.
The kind of cases that we've been involved with are major precedent-setting cases which will have implications for years to come, where religious liberty is the primary issue and where the ruling in that particular case will have wider consequences for the freedoms of Christians generally.
Don't be afraid to take your Christian stand because we've learned that God is with you in all of it, and He gives you the grace to stand against these trials and these challenges.
The way forward is not for the church to simply imitate the society around us. The way forward is for the church to be the church, to follow Christ, to follow the teachings of the Bible.
Nicola Sturgeon has come under fire for claiming that the named person scheme is not compulsory, despite her government saying exactly the opposite. During First Minister's questions, Scottish Conservative leader Ruth Davidson argued the scheme is being imposed against the wishes of parents, the majority of Scots, and the concerns of many, including the police. Sturgeon responded by claiming that the plans are an entitlement, not an obligation.
The fact of the matter is that the children and parents are not legally obliged to use the named person service or take up any of the advice or help that is offered to them. Let me repeat again today, parents are not legally obliged to use it because it is an entitlement, not an obligation.
Last year, the Scottish Government's QC told judges in the Court of Session that the proposals had to be universal and that allowing parents to opt out would defeat the purpose of the scheme. A legal challenge against the plans was recently heard in the UK Supreme Court. The judges will deliver a verdict in the coming months. Sex education would become a statutory subject in state primary schools under plans put forward by the Labour Party. The Christian Institute has previously warned of the dangers of nationally prescribed sex education and has revealed the explicit materials used in some lessons. Shadow Education Secretary Lucy Powell called for personal, social, health and economic education, which includes sex education, to be made statutory in all state-funded schools. Powell said that if the current government does not act, Labour would make statutory sex education a priority if they came to power. Currently, local authority maintained secondary schools must teach sex education, but free schools, academies and all primary schools are not required to do so. And finally, World Down Syndrome Day has been marked around the world as people held events to raise awareness about the condition. This year, Down Syndrome International sought to show the world how people with Down syndrome live and participate in the community, alongside family, friends, peers and the public. Speaking for the Pro-Life Alliance, Josephine Quintavalli welcomed the celebration and vowed to continue opposing injustice towards the unborn. Today we celebrate World Down Syndrome Day. Tomorrow we roll up our sleeves and renew our opposition to all forms of discrimination, especially those taking place in the womb. Tragically, recent figures for England and Wales show that on average 92% of babies diagnosed before birth with Down syndrome are aborted each year. Campaigner and channel swimmer Karen Gaffney, who has Down syndrome, has spoken inspiringly about the huge contribution people with the condition can make to society.
I wonder what comes to mind when you think of our tomorrows, the tomorrows of people with Down syndrome. Some of you may be thinking, is there a tomorrow for people like us? And given what is happening in the world of prenatal testing, anyone would question that. Well, I'm here today not only to make a case for Down syndrome, but to spread the idea that all lives matter.
Well, that's all for this week. For regular updates and more information on all of our stories, plus much more, visit our website at christian.org.uk. On behalf of the Christian Institute, I'd like to wish you all a peaceful Easter. Until next time, goodbye.